What's up YouTube, it's TF Collector, and today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Studios Series number 29 Deluxe Class Sideswipe from Transformers Dark of the Moon. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging that Sideswipe comes in. You can see on the front, nice picture of Sideswipe there. He's number 29 of Studios Series. His name's Sideswipe. He's an Autobot. Ain't Up Hasbro, Transformers Dark of the Moon, Transformers Generations Takara logos there. On this side, he is number 29 of Studios Series. There you have an image of him there. Deluxe class, of course. On this side, another picture of Sideswipe, Autobot, and Authentic. On the back of the packaging, he is big screen inspired from Transformers Dark of the Moon. His name is Sideswipe from the Dread standoff scene. Some more images of Sideswipe there. Transforms in 18 steps. Sideswipe backs up Ironhide in a head-to-head against the Dreads. You have some other figures that you can purchase. Reviews for World War II-B and Barricade are up now on the channel. I do not have Clunker Bumblebee in my collection. Backdrop included we'll take a look at later. Licensed GM product, Hasbro. On the bottom, a barcode. On the top, Transformers Dark of the Moon. And before we take a look at Sideswipe, he does, of course, include his instruction manual. He is number 29 of Studio Series. He is Sideswipe from Dark of the Moon, Deluxe Class. Picture of Sideswipe there, eating up Transformers Generations on the back, Takara, GM, and Hasbro. And moving to the figure itself, here is Sideswipe in his alt mode, the Chevrolet Corvette, which is nice and licensed, of course, being the convertible that is seen in Dark of the Moon, as this is the Dark of the Moon version of this character. But moving in close so we can take a look at the details, you can see he is done in this beautiful silver all throughout the figure. Love the way that looks. You have your nice Corvette logo there on the front with some nice details all throughout done in black. The wheels could have used some paint, especially since the rest of the car is done in silver. So that is one minor complaint. Wish the wheels were painted, or the tires. No, the wheels, I'm right. Dang it, I know cars, I swear. The wheels could use some paint. But overall, you can see some nice translucent plastic used for the wind shield and the windows. Inside, you have some nice details, steering wheel, some seats, even have a little dash going on there and whatnot. Looks pretty cool, nicely detailed in there, really. Some more details on the back, nice spoiler, and you have some red taillights with some exhaust and whatnot. Some more exhaust here that we'll get to a little more later. These are actually the accessories incorporated into the alt mode. But overall, there is the top. You can see there is some gappage, which is another minor complaint. Just the gappage and the unpainted wheels are really my only complaint here. But there is the underside. Now, he does come with some accessories, but they are incorporated into this vehicle mode. So we'll talk more about those later on after the transformation. And for some quick comparisons with Sideswipe here, first, here he is with Studio Series number 3, Deluxe Crowbar. So you can see how that works out. You can see how that scales. Of course, not accurate to how these two cars would scale together, but they do look pretty good. Here he is with Studio Series 14, Voyager Class Ironhide, and that is more close to a real-life scale. And I think that these two look pretty darn cool together personally. And last but not least, here he is with Studio Series 16 Deluxe Ratchet. Once again, definitely not how these two would scale together in real life, but they do still look pretty cool together in my opinion. And the next figure we'll review is Crankcase, and in that review I'll put the whole Mexican standoff crew together so you can see how all of that will scale together. But that is it for the comparisons with Sideswipe. And that's about all I have to say about the vehicle mode for Sideswipe. I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. Love the silver paint. Just wish they would have painted the wheels and maybe figured out a way to deal with that gappage. But with that being said, let's go ahead and transform this guy. So the first thing we're going to do is just grab these pieces, and you're basically going to pull them out and down. So just pull them out and down, and you can see there's little notches that go into little tabs, and there's also a little notch there that tab goes into, and this will become one of his weapons. So we'll just set that off to the side for now. Do the same thing on the other side. Set that off to the side for now, and then what we can do is pull the arms down and untab the guns from the hands. You can see that tab just goes into that slot, and you can see the guns were serving as the exhaust on the vehicle mode. So that is pretty cool. Love the way they incorporated the weapons into this alt mode. But once you get all the weapons undone, we can go ahead and transform this guy. So the first thing you're going to want to do is we're going to work on this whole back section. And fair warning, these two pieces are on ball joints and they pop off on me a lot, which gets pretty annoying. But I'll try to do it without popping them off. So the first thing you're going to want to do is basically just get these tabs out of underneath of these sections, like so. Then what you're going to want to do is just come here and we're going to start to push up on this piece, and these two pieces are actually tabbed into the sides of it. So there it goes, like I said. So I'll fix that here in a second. But you just want to untab these pieces. You can see how the tab there goes into the side right there. And you're just going to want to hinge this whole section up. Make sure you get these pieces around this section and just hinge this whole section up. Maybe it wants to. Hello? Pretty please, pretty please, pretty please. And there we go. Had to get that up around that piece. And like I said, just hinge that piece up. Let me fix that real quick. And I got that tab back on. And usually after that little annoying piece of transformation, this will go pretty smoothly. So you just want to come here and just push that section in. You can go ahead if you want and rotate this section 180 like so. And you can go ahead and come here to the arms and just get them up and out of the way on those double hinges. And now I'm going to go ahead and work on the lower body. So the first thing you want to do is flip them around and just untab these sections here, and this section will come up like so. And now we can work on the legs. So you're just going to split the legs, they tap together right there, and you're going to swing this piece around. Then what you're going to do is swing this piece around. Well, you want to swing that around first, and then you can swing that around. Bring that toe up and bring the heel back, so you have that looking like that. And then come here and just fold that piece down like so. Do the same thing on the other side. Flip that around, flip that around, flip that around, and then line this all up like so and like so. And then just swing that piece around like so. And now he does have little chicken leg look, so you can kind of just angle these pieces back and give him his chicken legs if you want to. You don't have to, but it is an option, and I'm going to do it because it's movie accurate. And now what you can do is you're just going to rotate this piece down over his head, and that tab is going to go into that slot. So just bring that down, tab that in. Now what you're going to do is just rotate these pieces around so they are facing down and out of the way, and we can finish up with the back section. So you can see that's on a double hinge there. You're just going to double hinge that down, and you can see a slot there. Basically what you're going to want to do is rotate this section around. You may have to pull this piece up out of the way, but just rotate that around, and then that slot and that little clear tab will go into one another. So let's just bring that up, and that will tab that in right there. And then you can just angle those little door wings however you want. And to finish him off, you're just going to want to angle the chest forward like so. Do the same thing on the other side. Just angle that chest forward and flip his wrists out on each side. Do the same thing over here. Just flip his wrist out. Maybe flip out, please. And with that said and done, this transformation gave me a little trouble here in the review. But with that said and done, there you have SIDESWIPE in his robot mode. And even though the transformation can be a bit fiddly, I really do like the way the robot mode has turned out. But coming in close, we can take a closer look at the head sculpt. You can see it's mostly done in a light gray plastic, but you do have silver and blue used for the eyes, along with a little bit up top right there, looking pretty nice. You have some red from the tail lights carrying over to the robot mode. You have a new Corvette logo right there, which is pretty cool. Some more gray detailing all throughout. You can see not a whole lot of paint going on here, just a lot of gray plastics overall. You can see pretty cool how they incorporated the wheel feet into the robot mode. About as good as they can get that to where he can actually still stand. Nice detail throughout the arm, but once again, no real paint to show for it. And even though he's completely silver in car mode, you can see in robot mode, it really does not transfer over, unfortunately. I still love the way he looks, but that silver finish would have looked really awesome. Backpack-wise, it's not bad. It's just there, and the wings, of course, are movie accurate. So overall, he turned out pretty good in robot mode, but certainly could have used some more paint detail. And as far as articulation goes, the head is on a ball joint, so he can look up some and down some, and it can rotate the full 360. The shoulders are on ball joints, but due to the way it's designed, it's kind of funky to get them to do a 360, but they can do it. The arms are on mushroom pegs, so you get a bicep swivel. You do get an elbow bend to about 90 degrees due to transformation. You do get in and out movement. At the wrist, you do get a waist swivel, which is very nice. The legs can kick forward that far. They can kick back that far until they hit that piece. Outward, you can pop his leg off, apparently. What the heck is going on? Outward, his leg pops off, so you can really only get it to about there before you, as you can see, his leg will just decide it's time for Sideswipe to die. And you can see the mushroom peg there, so he does have a thigh swivel. Mine is very tight, though. You do have two joints at the knee, so you can kind of get a full knee bend going there. You have a joint there and a joint there. And as far as the ankles go, you can't really do anything unless you want to break his ankle one way and break it the other way. You can do that. And these two pieces can move around to accommodate with poses. So overall, oh, and these pieces are on ball joints, but overall he does have some pretty good articulation, not transformation, if I say so myself. And as you saw throughout the transformation, Sideswipe does come with some accessories. He comes with two of these little guns, which look pretty cool, done in a dark gray plastic with some silver paint there, so those look pretty cool. And he comes with his blades, of course, the iconic blades that he uses in both Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon. Looking pretty cool, nice details, of course, and all of this can be stored. I'm just going to show you how to store one of each. So basically you just use that tab there and it will tab into this piece. The other one will tab on the other side, and basically you just line that up and just push that in. Maybe. Sometimes it wants to work with me and sometimes it doesn't. And as you can see, that is a trend with this figure today. So you can see that will store there. And if you want to store the blades, they will just store on either side by tabbing into these slots. You just bring them in and just tab them in. Just use that big tab right there, and they can tab into either side. So you can store your weapons both on both hips and on both sides of that piece. So that is an option you have. But you can, of course, have him wielding his weapons, and I'm just going to do the same thing, show you how to store or wield one of each. You can just plug this into his hand, so that will just plug right in there. Normal tab slot sort of situation there. And as far as this piece goes, you can use this little tab right here, and it will tab into the hand right there. So you can just tab that in like so, and you can see you can have Sideswipe using his gun or his sword, or he can have him using one of each. And I'm not sure if you could plug another one on there. That's something you'll have to experiment with yourself, as long as he's holding the blaster. But I know you can have him with one of each plugged on each hand and holding both weapons, one in each hand. So you have a lot of options for what you can do with Sideswipe and his accessories. And for some quick comparisons here with Sideswipe in robot mode, first, here he is with Studio Series 16, Deluxe Ratchet from Dark of the Moon. So you can see a couple Autobots from Dark of the Moon and how they look together. I think they look awesome together. Love the way the Dark of the Moon is shaping up so far. Here he is with number 14, Ironhide, who is technically labeled to be from the first Transformers movie, but he never really changes throughout the three of the original Bayverse trilogy, so he still looks pretty good here with Sideswipe. And if we want to scoot these guys back a little here, we can bring in Studio Series 03 Crowbar, so you can see how the Mexican standoff scene is shaping up so far, and I think it does look pretty awesome so far. And in the next review, we will take a look at Crankcase, the final member of the Mexican standoff, and I'll let you know how I feel about that figure in that review. And last but certainly not least, my patented comparison here. Here he is with a CG model of Sideswipe from either Dark of the Moon or Revenge of the Fallen, whatever I can find. So you can see how close they got this figure to his on-screen counterpart. And I think they did a pretty great job with this guy. I think he looks awesome here in robot mode. And moving Sideswipe out of the way here, the last thing to talk about is, of course, the sadly now discontinued backdrop that used to come with all these Studio Series figures. You can see 29 of Studio Series there, Transformers, Dark of the Moon, Authentic, and you have the Mexican standoff going on in the back, and you can plop Sideswipe down there. Weapons down. And you can have him doing all that. Will let you escape with your dignity. I think Weapons Down was Ironhide. I'm pretty sure Sideswipe was. It's been a while since I saw Dark of the Moon. But you can have your little Mexican standoff going on there, and that does look pretty awesome. So that is my review for the Transformers Studio Series 29 Deluxe Class Sideswipe from Dark of the Moon. And overall, this is one of my favorite Deluxes so far in this Studio Series line up to this point in the line. I really enjoyed this figure. I think the Corvette mode looks awesome. Love the fact that it's a convertible. Just wish they could have dealt with the gapping in the bottom of the seats, as well with the unpainted wheels. Now, the transformation does get a little frustrating at that one little step, but after that one step, it is pretty smooth, and what you get in robot mode is nothing short of awesome. You get a very accurate looking Sideswipe figure, one of the most accurate that we've got to this point, probably the most accurate Sideswipe. The Human Alliances have always been really highly regarded when it comes to Sideswipe, along with that one that came out during the Hunt for the Decepticons line a long time ago. But me personally, this is my favorite Sideswipe that I have in my collection for the Bayverse version of Sideswipe. So I'm going to have to say that this is certainly a figure I would recommend. I think both modes look really good. He is an awesome character from the movies, and you certainly want to have him in your collection if you are a Bayverse fan. The transformation, other than one step, is pretty enjoyable and goes very smoothly, other than that one step, obviously. So if I had to rate Sideswipe, I think I'm going to give him an 8.5 out of 10. I think this is a really well done figure. Definitely a green light from me. Get this guy if you can find him for a good price. I really enjoy the figure and would certainly recommend it. So as always, don't forget, never sacrifice the things you love for the approval of others. Crankcase is next in our road through the Studio Series line, so that review will be next. And until then, roll out. Peace.